After 6.5 years of loving, adoring, and playing hundreds of hours of Kingdom Death Monster, I can finally say I made it to the end of a campaign.
Just barely.
And not only that, we made it to the end of the campaign in a single week. Technically,
yes. We started playing over a vacation week that I had from work, and we got about 5 days into it, and then I had to go back to work, and so we postponed that last day for about a few weeks, up until a few weeks ago, and we finally completed.
But 6 total days of playtime resulted in a full campaign of Kingdom Death. Now, we did do base game, all the little box expansions included, but no big box expansions. And we played the classic, People of the Lantern campaign. We wanted to see the full story arc. We wanted to go ahead and witness the Watcher, fight against the Goldsmoke Knight, and figure out what our ending was going to be.
We did not encounter anyone earlier than we were supposed to. We did not encounter the Watcher before he came up on the timeline. We went all the way down to 30 Lantern years.
Yeah, the entire timeline. So this video is going to be split into a few parts. We're going to tell you how we played it in a week, what we did to make that necessary, how much playing that was. We're going to tell you why I've never finished a campaign before. And then we're going to get into some spoiler territory. The stuff we learned, the things we discovered, what we actually think of the People of the Lantern campaign, and our response to the end of it, which you did not know anything about.
No.
And I actually, after playing it for years, had seen enough spoilers. I hadn't read ahead, but I'd seen enough stuff online to kind of know where everything ended up. I don't know the end to the other campaigns, though, so finally we're going to tell you what we're doing next, where this is going. So...
And then my favorite takeaways, because it's my first complete campaign.
Yeah.
And I was very excited.
I'll have timestamps down below, and the moment we start talking about spoilers, I will let you know, so that if you've not made it to the end and you don't want to spoil anything, you can go ahead and click off this video. But why have I never beaten Kingdom Death before?
Or how did we do it in a week?
I've played Kingdom Death obsessively for 6.5 years. My favorite game of all time, multiple game groups, a lot of solo missions. And there's really 3 answers to why this is the first time I've made it to the end of the campaign. First answer, we've always lost. I have lost multiple campaigns. You get to Lantern Year 20, or you get to Lantern Year 15, and you realize that you're not geared up enough to actually go against a level 2, or you go against a level 3 too early, and the entire campaign goes off the rails. I've had multiple campaigns come to a halt midway through, because we died. We've had multiple campaigns come to a halt midway through because we either weren't prepared or, like they saw with the Gambler's Chess gameplay, we got completely annihilated. Season 2 is still active, by the way, and we've made it farther than you're aware.
We have had 4 campaigns. Mm-hmm. We have had 2 People of the Lantern campaign and 2 Dreamkeepers campaign. Yep. 1 Dreamkeepers campaign ended in total annihilation. The other People of the Lantern campaign is still at Lantern Year 14, and I was looking back at our sheets, and we probably wouldn't make it much further because we haven't properly leveled up, but it was not a failed campaign.
That's the other reason why I haven't finished a campaign before. Game groups moving, people quitting, playing with a lot of people, and then the game group is no longer there. COVID shut down, I think, 2 different Kingdom Death game groups I had. And then the final reason why I'd never finished a game of Kingdom Death is because apparently I have ADHD, diagnosed professionally, prescribed with medication. That's why we're being so structured and productive now. Means we might actually finish a full campaign on camera for you all to watch. But it makes playing solo a game like this really, really hard, and much easier to play the start of the game up until about Lantern Year 5 to 10 by yourself, and then you go back to the beginning and you play again the start of the game. I know the beginning so well. Okay, how did we do this in a week? 6 days. If someone wanted to replicate 6 days of Kingdom Death to finish a campaign, which we're going to do again in the future, how is it possible, and what do we want to do different, maybe?
You need to commit to playing between 10 to 12 hours of Kingdom Death every single day.
I think we did some 15, 16-hour days.
You have to have snacks on hand, be prepared to order, take out food, take minimal bathroom breaks. Sometimes after a brutal fight, you might need a bit of a mental break because of all the math that you're doing. So we did take a couple occasional half-hour breaks to regroup. But be committed to be playing that much. Have food on hand, have bathrooms on hand, and just be excited.
Have a organization system in a location where you can leave the game permanently.
Yeah.
And on top of that, designate roles. I was upgrading our settlement. I was buying gear and asking Shira what type of gear she wanted, and maybe giving her an option or two every now and then. I was also handling some innovations and doing the general deck management.
Yeah.
You were running creatures. You were tracking the settlement.
Yep. I was running what gear we had. Like, I kept track of all of our resources. I kept track of all of the innovations and what they did. I kept track of what we got for departing bonuses. I kept track of what events that we had to do, the settlement events and the book events when we came to a new lantern year, when it was time to go out to face a nemesis. All of the sheets have my handwriting on it. I kept track of all of our characters. I kept track of who died, what happened to whose lifetime reroll we used, etc., etc. I was more involved in asking for the intimacy events because I was more concerned about our settlement population. He was more concerned about getting resources and gear and what we were doing in that area.
And so every time we finished a fight and came back, we would probably distance for about 30 minutes, turn on some music, and sit there and, do our own thing until we were ready to move forward with the campaign. And that worked really well for keeping the flow of the game really healthy, but also giving us some space from each other to not have to focus on interacting as much as just updating and managing. And we chose the things that we were both the most invested in. Mm-hmm. Any other advice? Anything you want to do different? Because we are going to do this again. Yeah. And next time we might do like a behind-the-scenes vlog or something to show people the process. This time, we both were just ready for a whole week of playing games together.
I think that's it. Obviously, have your games set up and organized beforehand. Like, we had all of the monsters that we had an entire deck box just of the monsters we would be encountering in the base game.
None of the other ones.
None of the expansions. Even though the game that we were playing with had all the other expansions theoretically able to be mixed in, we just took out the monsters that we were going to be fighting. So the White Lion, the Phoenix, the Antelope, the Butcher, and then all of the nemesis that we might encounter in this game. And so it was very easy for me, because I was controlling the creatures, to grab their deck, give him the resources and the hunting events, and me to set up the creatures and their AI decks and their hit location decks and all the things that I needed on the side.
I, by far, would rather play all of Kingdom Death in a week than play it once every other week across the course of a year.
It is so much harder to pick it back up. That last single day was brutal for us. When we had taken that break and we had been so far. We were up to like Lantern Year 26, and we just had to finish the last few Lantern Years.
Even a couple of weeks made picking up from all the stats, upgrades, disorders, and storylines really hard.
To the point that we were almost like, we should have just filmed us silently in the background, not performing for the camera, just so that we could rewatch our last episode.
We had an idea of, at the end of whenever we were stopping for the night, do a little video update on our cell phone and say, hey, this is where we are, this is what we're planning to do, here's the cool thing that happened.
Or some things that we like to do is take a picture of our sheet in case something happens to that specific hunt. Taking a picture of your gear grid and taking a picture of your stats for your character, just in case you end up redoing.
Well, we have some opportunities to do that. All right, we're going to move into spoiler territory now, and I'm going to really let Shira lead most of this conversation, because I've already talked a lot about Kingdom Death from my perspective.
The ending
Where do you want to start? The ending? Okay.
The ending stinks. It is so annoying that the ending is one... No matter what happens, even if you defeat the Gold Smoke Knight, you're still going to go to endgame. It doesn't matter whether you succeeded or not. All it changes is a bit of flavor text.
Yeah.
And that was so, so sad.
Now,
I was so discouraged. I wanted a Medal of Valor for have gotten that far. I did.
I do already know the comments we're going to be having down below.
Yeah.
People saying that People of the Lantern is probably the worst, most lackluster campaign. It wasn't the intended ending to this story.
Yeah.
It became so because the Lantern Festival campaign got canceled because he couldn't quite figure out how to scale the game appropriately.
And I know these things, and I know there's other campaigns, and we're going to be going through them. But I just have to say, for the first time encountering that end game paragraph, it was such a letdown.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to come to, because I understand why it happens, but the ending, no matter what with this game, is you die. You either die victoriously and you fall over and die, or you die horribly. Now, I will say that if you're a Patreon of Fens, who also has a lot of great Kingdom Death strategy videos, like walking you through gear grids and stuff like that, he does have lore write-ups on his interpretation of what's happening during some of these moments, and he's probably one of the most knowledgeable KDM experts out there. And so I went through and read some of those updates to get a better sense of what's happening in the world and environment of Kingdom Death, at least from one person's vision of it. And that actually really helped me appreciate the endgame story. But without that, you just look at the game alone, I kind of agree with you. Really lackluster ending.
But,
let's talk about the journey.
So, I was comparing our first campaign versus this campaign. Both of the People of the Lantern campaigns, I'm not talking about Gamblers. I was comparing our first one that we got to Lantern Year 14. And I was looking back, and we encountered one level 2 monster in those 14 years. And if I look at our current campaign, I think we were forced to accidentally encounter a level 2.
And we handled it.
But we handled it by 4. The 4th year,
really?
We went out for a White Lion level 2. And then we went back to 1, 2, 3. For another 3 years, we went back to level 1s. And then at that point on, we really switched into, besides for Nemesis, after about 8, 4, 5, 6, 7, by Lantern Year 8, we were switched to completely level 2s. And then we started ramping up to level 3s. And the amount of resources that you get additionally from the level 2s and the level 3s really helped us build our settlement.
Yeah.
And so,
we ended up getting the story event with the antelope that causes a mother to come out or a father to come out, and that was pretty brutal.
At a level higher than you were supposed to.
We also included the Giga Lion, which I found really satisfying as a way to mix up some of the fights. Because you do fight the same creatures quite a bit in this game. Yeah. Are you tired of any of the creatures so far?
I might be... I still am not a fan of the Phoenix. I don't see a real reason to go after the Phoenix, and that is what people have... We've looked up, strategies on the Phoenix. I really don't see a reason to go after the Phoenix.
I mean, we even went so far as to be going into our last battles with the Hours Ring.
Yeah.
We'd already played so much, we were kind of ready to see how the game concluded. We didn't even choose to use it.
Well, I mean, similar to the Hours Ring, we did use the story in the snow.
Earlier on, though, when we fought a level 3 before we realized that we should have.
Yes, we definitely used it.
And we got annihilated. But the story in the snow is a expansion piece of content that allows you to cheat and reset as long as you haven't cheated very much. The Hours Ring is a very similar concept. It allows you to reset a fight from the very beginning.
Which is why taking a picture of your gear grid and your status,
However, I'm going to be honest, with this thing, we never got to a point where we felt like using it because we either were victorious or we didn't really want to go against the Gold Smoke Knight again because we were going to lose.
Or we didn't have people that we were very attached to going out. We also separated the characters that we really cared about, we saved them up for the end game. We would take them out only on fights that we were guaranteed to win, essentially to upgrade their stats or something like that. But we were very selective on who we brought out. I managed the population very succinctly.
I overall am not tired of the White Lion or the Antelope, even though I've played them obsessively. I think the Phoenix is a really cool fight, but like you, I'm not compelled to go out because it's too risky for a campaign. A one-off fight, I think the Phoenix is one of the more interesting ones.
Yeah, so
in a campaign, it's too risky.
So in terms of when you're asking me if I'm bored of any of them, I might be very, very familiar with the White Lion's AI deck and hit location deck at this point because we fought him so much. And same thing with the Screaming Antelope, but throwing in the Giga Lion actually added some variability and added some different resources and different things that we could accomplish. And so I like this base, but I am looking forward to going back to our Crimson Croc, and seeing some of the, I think the Gorm is a substitute for, who's the other substitute
Gorm's a substitute for the White Lion.
I'm looking forward to seeing some other substitutes for the White Lion.
I don't like the Kingsman or the Hand.
I actually started to like the Butcher.
I like the Butcher. I've always liked the Butcher.
I'm fine with the Butcher.
He's brutal and terrifying, but I find him really interesting to fight. The Kingsman and the Hand have mechanics that you have to know, or else you get completely screwed. You want to talk about how they work and what we ran into? By the way, for anyone that's like, why is Jesse talking funny or looking weird? I have a spring on my braces, and as I've been talking, it's twisted in a way that's making it poke the top of my lip just gently enough.
Do you want wax?
I will later. I'm just clear, because I keep getting comments from people like, is Jesse dipping? Does Jesse have a retainer in? When did he get a lisp? And I'm like,
I have braces and an expander.
It's horrible. It's the worst.
So for the butcher, the things that we kind of took away is having bandages, prepare for frenzy, so use your survival right in the beginning of the showdown because you're going to be frenzied pretty soon and not be able to use it, and come with insanity as well. Those are kind of the takeaways for the butcher. The Kingsmen in the hand also are very brutal. The Kingsmen Okay, so this was a mistake that we encountered.
This was a big mistake.
Don't encounter the Kingsmen a level before you're ready to. As in, there's an event that comes, there's a story event that comes up, I think in Lantern Year 4 or 5, where you are given the option of either fighting the Kingsmen or losing population.
We rolled horribly on it, to be clear. It wouldn't normally be that way, but we rolled so terribly that we decided to fight the Kingsmen.
Lantern Year 7, we fought a Kingsman level 1.
We were not
from
prepared.
that point onward,
we lost every fight.
We were forced to fight, because every Nemesis you have to fight a level higher until you get to the level 3s. We were fighting the Kingsmen a level higher than we were supposed to be, according to how the campaign was running, and that was brutal. And so at the point that we got to the level 2, we had to fight the level 3 twice. At the point that we got to the level 2, we were just like, we're giving up. We're sending out people we don't care about. And we would just... That was also part of how we got through the campaign in a week. When we saw nemesis that we did not think we could fight very...
We only maybe did it 3 times.
Yeah, 3 times. I think for the hand later on and for the Kingsmen.
But we just kind of admitted death.
Yeah. I mean, I literally have on my sheet, don't fight the Kingsmen. Because... But... So this is something else. If you do want to end up fighting the Kingsmen,
you gotta plan ahead.
You gotta plan ahead and fight that and get that King Step fighting art.
There's an innovation.
Yeah, there's an innovation
that
allow you to dance and then allow you to then get that King Step, and then you can give it to certain survivors, and they're gonna be your Kingsmen fighting survivors.
It's down the music pathway. It's down the drums and all that other stuff, which we didn't explore that thoroughly. I would almost advise people to reread through all the innovations in whatever expansion mix you have, because some of those pathways make total sense if you look at them early.
Yeah. Some of also for when you're starting to encounter the level 3 monsters, there's some innovations that if you have on hand will give you extra bonuses for the first time defeating a level 3 of that monster, or even the second or third time. So Kingsman was awful.
Yeah. I'm completely uninterested in fighting more Kingsmen.
The hand, shields, a mace, withstand his AI deck until the end. Oh, don't attack him. The hand. That was our strategy for the hand.
We didn't attack him at all, I don't think.
Yeah, we would just run away, or we would have one person take the brunt of the attack while everyone else ran away, and there is a way to withstand his AI deck and not fight him, because fighting him was not possible.
He's another one that I understand the puzzle. I get kind of what it's doing. I don't find him to be a rewarding or fun fight anymore. I'm not interested in it. I'd rather just wipe the party and move on. Maybe if we're playing through another campaign and we have either of them in, we'll strategize to be prepared for them and have custom gear builds for them. But that's a big if. Yeah. It's a big if.
Speaking on long-term things, there's definitely...
Let's talk about the last two. You've never fought these guys.
The Watcher and the Gold Smoke Knight. The Watcher, I'm still doubting if we even did it correctly, because it has such an entirely different rule set. You are taking out on basically discs and squares of this size, a 3x3.
Platoons.
You're taking out platoons of your own people from your settlement to give you extra stat boosts based on if they're adjacent to you. It was insane.
We found it really easy.
Yes. Surprisingly easy.
Yeah. We thought the campaign was going to end there.
Yeah.
And we were actually surprised and had to keep going for a little bit longer than we expected because we didn't crit fail at the Watcher.
Yeah.
The Watcher was kind of a cakewalk by the point that we were at.
Yeah, we had the Twilight Sword.
Yeah.
The Twilight Sword is something for, I believe, the Gold Smoke Knight.
No, it's for the Watcher.
It's for the Watcher?
Yeah.
Where you should use every opportunity to level up that Twilight Sword because it gives insane stats against the Watcher, and one person should be carrying it out.
Yeah.
Because based on the level you're in, it'll add strength against the Watcher specifically. So that's in line with, like, aiming towards that end game. Find some of the gear that you're really working towards and building gear grids around, or find people online who have created insane gear grids and start searching for the ingredients that you're going to need, or start going down that pathway for the barber surgeon and for the iron that you're going to need. We should have been mining and saving iron our entire game to get some of those like heavy armor.
We weren't prepared for any cooking. We weren't prepared for any iron. We had to really scramble and go out a lot to get the gear that we
needed.
needed.
We were mineral mining and herb mining every single time we could by mid to end game.
Let's talk about the Gold Smoke Knight.
He's just brutal.
Big sweeping attacks.
I don't think there's anything that I can really say besides...
Did we even wound him much? Like, we got a few hits.
We got halfway through his hit location.
Yeah.
We were about halfway there, and we took out our best people, and my takeaway is that it felt like a fair fight. It felt like an end boss. It felt like the culmination. The Watcher didn't feel like the culmination of a campaign. We were really successful against the Watcher. Our settlement didn't die, and we continued to play after that. But the Gold Smoke Knight felt as brutal as it should have, in my opinion.
I would agree with you, just that the story is anticlimactic.
Yes, but we talked about that.
Yeah, but the fight was solid. The fight was well explained. Okay.
One thing that I broke in the game.
Yeah, let's talk about gear, yeah. So I'll timestamp here. Gear that we use, stuff that we discovered, like cool things.
So, do you want to explain what these are? Because I don't know how to explain these. But
So we have our strain cards. They came with the Echoes of Death expansions. They're things that you can unlock that do a legacy system for the game. We did include those in this campaign. We put stickers on the back of ours when we've unlocked something so that we can remember it, because they are supposed to be permanent. You're supposed to check them. Neither of us are comfortable with that.
Marking the cards, so we put them on the sleeve instead. So if we ever want to take off the sleeve, we can do so. But this one, in particular, is one that you should go for early game, because
they can see it there.
It is life-changing. Okay. So it's the trepanning strain, and the condition is when a survivor survives the trepanning barber surgeon endeavor 5 times. So the trepanning barber surgeon is where you're able to heal some disorders, and they're drilling into the head, and you might have to use some rerolls and have one survivor going for it. But when they finish going for it...
We did it in a single session.
Yeah, we did it. We used all of our endeavors in a single session when we didn't need those endeavors for something else. You get the most insane fighting art. The survivor gains this fighting art, and then you have it in your deck. And the survivor, if you then have, I think, family or surname, anyone with any people that survivor gives birth to will have this fighting art.
Now, the interesting thing is, we won't be able to get this unless we pull it randomly from this point on.
Correct.
Because we've already unlocked the strain.
Right, we gave it to our character.
But in the future, we might come across this again.
We might pull it randomly, because now it's in our fighting art
And this
deck.
is really good.
So this is infinite lives. You cannot create new memories. If you would get new fighting arts or disorders, you don't. You just don't get new fighting arts. You don't get new disorders. It locks your character in place when you would gain one. Instead, you get a new lifetime, you get a new name, and a once per lifetime reroll. This is a way to get back those once per lifetime rerolls. This is the only way I've ever seen.
And avoid disorders.
Yeah, and avoid disorders as well. You get +1 survival for naming. You gain the reroll regardless of the principal and its own. It's interesting. You gain the reroll regardless of your principal. And only once per lifetime reroll at a time. But, so I have my favorite character who came out at the very end. This was the original character who earned it. This is Wolf Scatman. Scatman was his last name, and that's who all of his kids are named after. He became Puma, he became Mountain Lion, and then he became... Did he become Puma again? You must have chosen Puma, because I wouldn't have chosen Puma twice. He got 4 renames. And it was crazy, because it decreases the risk of taking them out on the hunt events as well, because you're very frequently getting a disorder, and every time you get a disorder, you get a new lifetime reroll.
Yeah, so, it's really nice. We attached this to...
So many of our characters.
Yeah, we actually attached this directly to our stone, the monument that allowed us then to attach it to new characters. Mm-hmm. And so it just became the thing we were trying to do. Now, the interesting thing is, in the Gamblers campaign, we discovered something similar that we love as well.
Our queen.
So we'll show you that in a gameplay coming up. But let's talk about some of the gear we had. You loved Excalibur, is a rare piece of gear.
We pulled it out of a stone.
It was specifically from one of the hunt events. Mm-hmm. And why did you like it so much?
I liked it because every time someone who went out with it died, it got +2 strength. And so I sent it out. I copied it and sent it out 3 different times for 3 different characters who died. And so by the end, it had 10 strength base, never mind the stats that my characters were adding to it.
And we could have started doing that a lot earlier if we got it earlier.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun to use. For me, from the Gigalion, I always like a ranged character. The Dense Bone Arrow was kind of a game changer because it makes it so that you always have enough ammo to last the entire fight. and it's a 2 speed, rolling 2 dice, hitting on a 6+ with a 6 strength.
No, hitting on a 5+.
I can't see. Hitting on a 5+ with a 6 strength.
Yeah.
So by the end of the campaign, it was the only thing that I was using consistently.
Yeah.
Along with that, my other character had blood paint. I know a lot of people are familiar with blood paint. First time I used it, though.
It was so cool. Having a sword, having
a sword and a shield. Having
a weapon and a shield. It doesn't matter what weapon it is.
Yeah.
But besides for it being, I think you said it couldn't be a two-handed weapon.
Can't be two-handed.
But having a weapon and then a shield and activating blood paint means that your shield is always active. So you always have those reuse shields. This is the first game that we started using shields as well, and that was huge.
They're more important than maybe we factored in before.
Yeah.
Probably something we'll incorporate more as we play. I will say,
I have one more piece of gear.
Okay.
The butcher cleaver. This was on a lucky butcher fight. We walked away with the butcher cleaver, and I think we had it from like episode 8 or something, like early game. It's a very, very powerful weapon. It's 2, it hits on 5 and has a strength of 5, and so for those early level 1s and even level 2s, it's pretty guaranteed to wound. The only consequence is that you have to be insane to activate it, and you can't die with it because it's irreplaceable.
Yeah. One thing that we didn't factor in well, because it was our first time to this degree of the campaign, was things like the blacksmith and the exhausted lantern horde. Now, I anticipated the exhausted lantern horde coming because I knew a little bit about the game already. Mm-hmm. Shira had no idea.
I did not know it all.
But I didn't try to sway anything in our gameplay to cater towards us not having access. So the lanterns filling our gear grid changed a lot about how we were building our armor and our gear sets. That really threw a wrench in some of the puzzles that we built out.
Yeah, it was very frustrating, and I found it interesting, though, that there's like a lantern halberd that has a lantern keyword. I'm more interested now than ever, if we come across this ever again, in having gear that has the lantern keyword inside of it that you can build so that it doesn't take up a useless spot.
And then one of the reasons why we didn't encounter the Watcher early is because we played through every fight so that we could mine resources, specifically iron.
Yeah.
And we didn't plan very well for that. So we did get to oxidize some stuff at the very end.
It was very cool.
But it was one of those things where it was like, we should have been planning from early on and trying to hold on and harbor resources. I know that's not always possible. Sometimes enemies will wipe them out. Nemesis like the Butcher will kill everything at your settlement. However, if we can, we would have been preemptively trying to get some of those resources earlier in the game.
Oh, we definitely had episodes where the Butcher took away all of our resources. Yeah. So, I don't know how much it would have mattered.
Just the fact that we would have been aware of it and aiming at it would have been a big change.
And sometimes it's like, take a D10 and half your resources or something like that. It's not always all of it.
Okay. Anything else you want to add, or should I go to the next category?
Next category.
What are we doing next? Where do we go from here? Some would say we've played the game, we've beaten the game. Do we even still like it? We're, 60 hours.
Did we say we beat it? I don't know. We did not beat it.
60 hours in a single week. Like, are we gonna redo the People of the Lantern? Are we gonna do it with other things incorporated? Are we playing a different campaign? What are we doing privately behind the scenes? Everyone already knows we're doing a classic Gambler's Chess playthrough right now publicly.
Yes. I don't think I have any interest in going through People of the Lantern campaign.
Again.
I think we've done it once. I don't mind jumping in.
Even with, the Gambler's Chess mixed in? Probably not.
Probably not. I want to see what the other campaigns are and what monsters...
People of the Sun, People of the Stars.
I want to go through them both. And I also want to try... You said that there's one option where you don't get any other survivors. You just have 4, but they start out stronger.
There's some short little, go as far as you can games that we might do for the channel once we finish this big Gamblers one. Because those might be fun little bite-sized things that people could watch. And just fight, a new creature every time or something weird like that. The Four Swordsmen is what I'm thinking of. It's a little alternative in the back of the rulebook. Are you more interested in People of the Sun? With the big sun, the Sunstalker, the big mouth? Or People of the Stars with the Dragon King?
Both.
You've seen both of them, though. You don't have an opinion?
We have a dog who's just yelping in the background. I haven't seen their models, specifically.
Asher, you're dreaming, buddy.
She's, I think, voting for People of the Stars.
Gotcha.
I want to see both, and so I want to see all of the expansion monsters specifically. I'm really curious because each monster has such a different feel to me, and while I'm very, I think, comfortable at this point with the antelope and the lions, and even the phoenix, I don't like the phoenix, but I have a handle on it. I want to see what else there is.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Let us know, have you made it to the end of a Kingdom Death campaign? If so, where did our experiences match up? Do you agree with us on the end game narrative being kind of anticlimactic? And where did you go next? Or where do you suggest we go next? She is really... I don't know if they can hear it, but there's just a little squeaking Yorkie, or what is she?
Maltese Yorkie
Maltese Yorkie mix over in the corner, just dreaming her heart out. Possibly being attacked by a white lion. She was there for the entire fight.
She was.
The
she
whole
was very
time. Very
committed.
committed. Yeah, she was very in. Okay.
Whatever the case, whatever you do, remember to do the important thing. Play Kingdom Death. We'll see you next time.
Bye.